evolved within the week, but more especially those events that stand out. The speech, not actually the speech, the statements from His Excellency the President hailing security forces for quashing these protests, and also interrogating the future of this country as the youth continue to engage and continue to insist that it is their right to protest. Dr. Jared Welanzala, open up our show. Tell us, what do you think could be the highlights we can pick from these protests, the highs of these protests? 1 or 2, 3 before we go into the deep discussion.
Thank you very much, Apple. Since you have limited me to the highs of this, one, I want to say that it is the first of its kind that young people are mobilizing using social media and then to try to exercise their constitutional rights by showing anger against corruption in this country. For me, that was key, that young people are beginning to pay attention to the issues that go on around them, instead of spending only time watching English Premier League, movies, Netflix, and so forth, because you know the saying that politics is too serious a matter that it should not be left to the politicians alone. So for me, that was key. And then the other also that stood out is that for a while, we knew our police for brutality, especially since the General Kale Kaihura took over. We used to see journalists being beaten when they are covering. I thought this time the police was more accommodative. I didn't see the journalists being beaten the way it used to be. And even the protesters, apart from 2 or 3 incidents, like of a lady who was nearly undressed. Actually, she almost went naked with her pants, seen her inner wear, seen, and I think that was unfortunate. But largely, the police was not as brutal as we had known the police. Probably, the issue of removing the army from the police and sending them back to the barracks probably is bearing some fruits, and bring back the career policemen to run the police. You know, since General Kaihura exited, we had Ochola, and then we have had Byakagaba come in, who is also a career police officer. For me, those were the highs.
Any highlights that we can pinpoint and start from?
Yes, I think I'm not really very far away from Dr. Werihe, if that's how they pronounce it. My friends from the East, and that's how they pronounce some of these names. I think for me, I think the importance of the opportunity of digitization in terms of engaging with the state, citizen engagement with the state through technology, I think really came out for me. And you know, over time in this country, really the media have had it rough, in my view, particularly the legacy of the traditional media that are known to hold those in power accountable. So those sort of spaces have been shrinking over time, and so therefore citizens now have their own spaces through which they engage government. And for me, the high was that, and also the fact that those who run the state really probably could not understand that now the power to engage is within, actually is available for the citizens, and they can use it anytime they want, and sometimes it's very, very difficult to curtail it, that sort of space. And coupled to that, I really was surprised to find that you know, this time around the state did not interfere with the internet. There was a bit of that, a little bit of that, but I think I don't know why they were too confident this time, but that for me was also a highlight. But also, finally, that we are seeing a different type of agitation emerging in Uganda, where young people, previously of course not known to engage in activism, to engage in politics, and also the quality of the kind of people that were engaging was different this time, because I could see the traditional opposition stayed away largely, but importantly, I saw young people fairly looking fine. You'd imagine they're coming probably from very good families, educated and aspiring for a future for themselves, articulating serious issues this time. And for me, apart from what I heard, that probably there were, there were other issues that what the president is calling bad things. I think, for me, I see a new regime in terms of citizen engagement regarding issues that affect the country, and articulation of the actual issues that affect the country, that affect everybody. And really finally was that element where I could see for the first time the whole country actually rallying together. This was nothing to do with which party you belonged to, or which region you came from, or which school you went to, or which age you are. But like everybody seemed to understand that we have an existential threat that affects everyone's life, and so therefore there was a need to engage. And what happens afterward is a different matter, but at least there was that commonality in terms of engaging about issues that affect all of us.
Thank you. It is my pleasure again to introduce to you Richard Baguma. It's an honor. Speak to our viewers.
As always, God first. Yes, I thank God that I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm healthy before I check. Maybe if they check themselves, I'm not. But thank you very much, God, for all you do for us. I also want to thank the viewers, as always. Thank you very much for patronizing us, for making us who we are. Then you and your bosses. But I also want to thank my colleagues who make it every time. We said Werike should get a cake from management. He's probably the most consistent of all of us. Thank you, Dr. Werike. And now, thank you for bringing me
An old comrade.
This is,
What is Chris Cross?
Relatively younger brother of mine.
Let me ask, Novin is a journey.
Yeah. It's been a while without interacting, which is not good of us.
Of course.
We interact in several spheres, in several spaces. But it's nice to see him here, and I've heard his preamble statements.
Yeah.
He sounds a very transformed man.
What do you mean transformed?
Well, that is the dialogue.
Transformed from what?
When I saw the book he has in hand, it looked like a Bible.
Thank you so much.
It must be a small Bible.
As we kick off the discussion, viewers, you can always be part of this debate. Send in your comments and observations on the topic we have on the table. Tell us what you think about the protests that were largely peaceful, but security deployed heavily, and even the high-handedness of some of the police officers actually stood out in this whole protest. And Richard Baguma, you can quickly make your observation, pick a highlight of this protest before we delve deep into this discussion. What stood out from your side?
No, I think on the description of the people who were on the street, on another platform, I said that the protected, supposedly well-facilitated, well looked after young person, I think they have broken their virginity in terms of public engagement. I think our children, because I was looking at the guys who were there, the nails, the hair, the shoes, the jeans, these are our kids, really. They are not, We can't say that they are hungry. No. But they are angry.
They are not hungry, but they are angry.
They are angry. So that means they have another hunger, not food hunger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we must go and find out that hunger. We know bits of it. So that was the first highlight for me, that this was not the other usual group, which I called the Komanyoko group. No, this was not. So you start to think, maybe something. The second thing for me is, because you see, one of the most important tools of keeping people in place is fear. These guys, despite the iron armor, whatever, the deployment, show of force, they still came out. Not one day, not 2 days. And so you have a few hundred of them. It means some of us in our homes are in pain. Yeah, because you have our children. Yeah. And I know I was in home. I went to meet somebody in the morning, and I phoned. He said, meet me at home. I said, why haven't you gone to work? He said, I am here seated because these children want to go to this place. I must keep my children. He's not a low person. No, he says, these children of mine. And these are children who have been paid for in private, by private tuition in university. They are unhappy. So I think that was one of the highlights. The second thing is, I think it's difficult as a parent now, and I'm thinking about my dad as a grandfather, to deploy this kind of armor against your grandchildren. I think it's a hard thing. So I think even the ones deploying, it must be a very difficult space to be. Yeah, so those for me
were the highlights.
You sounded transformed as well.
Now, let's dig deep into the discussion. Dr. Jared Wansara, let's now start from the mobilization on social media and look at the deployment, heavy deployment, then the arrests, the brute force that was used against what Baguma says their grandchildren of possibly the people who are in power. And here we have more than 100 in detention. What now does that speak to the real issue of corruption? And again, we'll be also looking at now the sentiments coming up after listening and reading the statements from the president, congratulating the forces for crushing the protests. And that now people are saying, really, are we fighting corruption?
Thank you, Apollo. I think I will start with the comments of the president before I go deeper into other issues of the debate. I think when I look at our head of state, I see him as that president of yesterday, okay? We have a head of state who has been there playing politics since the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, most times under different contexts, different reasons, different players. And today, the country is faced with a serious challenge. This challenge, we are seeing it in the form of this corruption fight, of course, but also the other biggest challenge that we have is the young population. I was seeing the average age of our cabinet, for instance, is about 62 of our government, and then the average age of Ugandans is 15, about 15.7, okay? So meaning that we have a very older population, leaders leading a very young population. Now, also the development in AI, artificial intelligence, or digital technology provides both an opportunity and challenges. Challenges in the way that if it's not used properly, it can intoxicate people's minds. People will have access to pornography. People will have access to things to do with the, differently oriented violence, sexual behavior, violence, and so forth. But also, lately we are seeing so many institutions investing in training young people to engage using digital spaces.
Tools.
Yes, the NGOs, the universities. Like I can assure you that before, some of us had the opportunity to go and study outside. Already virtual education was taking place. But now in Uganda, especially from 2020 when COVID came, there was a digital transition that so many people now are able to use this technology. I sit here, you find people in Amisindwa are very busy now attacking leaders over corruption using WhatsApp and so forth. And they have caused sometimes the resignation of the cow, of the chief administrative officer, and so forth. So for me, I'm seeing a young population that is taking advantage of the prevailing opportunities to engage with the state, Now, when it comes to the right to protest, because I saw in your advert, you talked about the right to protest and how they respond to this. There is no question that the Constitution of Uganda, specifically under Article 29, provides for freedom of expression, freedom of assembly and association, freedom to protest peacefully with others, okay? But again, the same Constitution puts certain limitations, okay, under the Bill of Rights. But some of these limitations were not put there to limit the exercise of what? These rights to peacefully protest. Like if what I am doing is going to put the state, the security of Uganda, okay, in trouble, which we call state security. Maybe I'm doing something, but I'm dealing with the ADF or other groups to destroy the security fabric of this state. I can be arrested. If I am doing something that encroaches on privacy of some people, because when Richard is in his bedroom, I don't have a right to just go there and access it. So if I'm trying to encroach on his privacy, then the Constitution can limit that freedom of mine. But then, you know that the law says, the Constitution also says, in Article 38 particularly, that people, every citizen of Uganda has the right to influence how they are governed, either individually or through their civic organizations. That we can organize through political parties, we can organize. And so if we demonstrate to fight the scourge of corruption without throwing stones, then I don't see why my right should be limited by the state. So what these people are doing, I did not see any stones being thrown. I did not see anyone banning stuff like that. And therefore, even the charges that were brought against these people at first of IDA and disorderly were expunged from our law books in 2019 because I can't be carrying a placard saying so and so should resign, walking to Parliament, and you say I was IDA and disorderly. I didn't know what I was doing. It is absolutely nonsense. You know, if any court entertained that, I think it is really unfortunate, and it cannot pass the test of time. It will be like actually detaining people who are doing their duty. You go to the Constitution and look at the duties of a citizen. One of them is to pay tax. The other is to participate in elections, in the civic activities like elections. And then the other duty is that every citizen has a right to fight corruption, the duty
to hold leaders accountable.
To hold leaders accountable, and that means fighting corruption. So if I am carrying a placard demanding for accountability, I don't see any judge in his right mental sense who will sentence me to imprisonment. But of course, because of the prevailing context, it is also a tool for fear. It is a tool. Because the first step to exert fear is deploy heavily and have so many... We know that some of these armored vehicles are not meant for street fights, for cooling protests. But you'll dress men with something like... sophisticated, have 100 of them on the eve of the protest, move through town, then to say, you know, if we go there, we are dead. That is one. So if that fails, the next step is let's arrest them, create charges against them and take them to Luzira, then to threaten others next time they don't come. But I know that President Museveni knows this. There is no amount of jailing which can solve a situation. Okay. Because right now, it appears like we are detaining the citizens of Uganda to protect the corrupt. Yet, the president was on Twitter 2 weeks ago saying that let the victims of what? Of corruption help me to fight corruption. But again, he's saying that if they do it in a patriotic way, he will also walk. But he has always walked. Has it gone?
We will, later in the program, we will interrogate the statements of the president in relation to this war he declared on corruption. Let me hear from you, Arini Itwe. Talk about some of those incidents that stood out that we highlighted here, like heavy deployment, this high-handedness against largely peaceful protesters.
First of all, I think for me, to get to your question, I want us to really first get the context. How did we come to this point? We came to this point because we all agreed, including the president himself, that 9.7 trillion Uganda shillings is stolen every year. And we are only able to collect about 25 from our local economic activities. The rest of the other money comes from the donors. Of course, he likes to say those who question him are being funded by foreigners, but half of our budget is funded by foreigners. And so it really, for me, doesn't make sense to me. But we need to understand where that comes from. So if 9.7 of your money is stolen, where are the citizens? Now, if it is stolen, and then we also see profligacy on the part of the state, too much opulence on the part of the state. Somebody drives, I think, a convoy of about 90 cars, another one has 15, another one has 3. Even simple secretaries have 2 vehicles in their homes, and they change them every year. And then
the expense of taxpayers.
Yes, and then you see so many MPs and politicians increasing their salaries every now and then citizens seem to be left on their devices. I think at some point I want to read you a message here of a patient who is struggling with a kidney problem in Kirudu, and has been sending me messages that he wants to give me his will because he can't find money, 300,000 shillings, to buy medicine. Just 300,000 shillings. And I asked him, what is the problem? You mean there's no medicine in Kirudu or even Mulago? He said, no, they diagnose properly and they say, go to the pharmacy. You go to the pharmacy, you don't find the what? The medicines. I even said, can I talk to my friend Dr. Diana? He said, if you can. Of course, I've not reached her. But this is just one patient out of, I think, millions of them. And this is what every citizen, ordinary citizen, goes through. Then you have the children, the Gen Zs, who have finished their universities. They cannot find jobs. Why can't they find jobs? Because there's no money to invest in activities that can create spaces for them to have a job, to have hope. But you also have to understand that there has been a wave globally, really, of young people rising against illiberal regimes, especially here in Africa. You know what's happened in Senegal, you know what has happened in Burkina Faso, and so many other places, and of course, next door in Kenya. And the reason is that there has been, for some time, particularly in Uganda, and Dr. Wehe put it out very well. You know, average age of our leaders, our national leaders, is 62, and then the majority of our population is 15.7. Actually, Dr. Wehe, actually, 90% of Uganda's population is below 50 years.
True.
So there is that detachment. The baby boomers who are running our state are on one extreme, and then the other extreme where you have the Gen Zs, and in between we have the Generation X, I think, where we all belong, are disconnected. The other ones don't know what the grandchildren are thinking, and the children, the grandchildren don't understand why these people cannot understand the world they are living in. And this world they are living in, my brother Apollo, is that these children, because of technology, they are able to see what is happening elsewhere. They're able to see where countries, organized countries look like. They're able to see states or governments that really take care of their people, or they're in their lives. Because of technology, they watch TV, they see all these things, they travel, because maybe their parents are able to make them travel around. And then when they come back home, they just can't understand what is happening here. They just can't understand. And then there's no discussion. So what has happened? There's so much anger that has been brewing over time, and it's reached that point where it is beginning to explode. And there are no mechanisms to understand what to do about it. And so to get back to your question, it is for me that context where we have come from, and it is informing the way we've reacted, or the state has reacted. Your topic, for example, talks about authoritarian response, government authoritarian response. I first really I thought, what's wrong with this topic? But then when I went back and reflected, I actually felt, discovered that actually you were right, because when you look at the heavy deployment, authoritarianism on the part of the state means the act of trying to hold power using any means possible, and we could see this. The ingredients were very clear. Heavy deployment, where you see military deployment, where you see restrictions of movement, mass arrests. Of course, they are talking about 100, maybe might be more, but also where you'll see, if you see elements of restrictions, especially on the part of the media, I saw a mixture of all this. So it may not have been extremely authoritarian, but of course, the signs were visible and informed by the fact that these protests had the potential probably to turn into something else, especially using the Kenyan experience. And at that point is where we now have to begin a discussion, a dialogue. Everybody is saying, you've made your point, you children, you've made your point. And we all agree that there is a problem of corruption in this country, and there's no better way to express it other than through protest, which is enshrined in our constitution. So, what do we make of this? For me, I think we've reached a point where the state has got to realize that people, citizens, have moved on. Have moved on, and you see this over different spaces, especially social media. It is like we are reaching that point where we have to give up and let them be. This business of tobacco, we leave them to do what they want. The citizens are getting that resigned state, and it's a desperate situation, which some of these state actors should not be playing with, because the more you play with it, the more you anger citizens, the more you don't understand what they are planning. I was looking at some of the figures. Of course, on the surface of it, colleagues, you'll see the state will say, we've picked 100 of them. Some of them were talking with foreigners and they had sinister motives, and to make it appear that actually the protesters were 100. But if you use some of these tools that we use when we are doing our social media analytics, you can't imagine what has happened. In just one keyword alone, just one like match to parameter, the one that has a figure. There's one which is only words. Then you have Anita must resign, and many other keywords, or what you want to call hashtags on social media that are being used. Just one of them, like this, has been able to garner in the past just 1 week, 1 month, I think, 30 days, about 15 million.
15 million.
Reach. And the analytics can tell you where most of the...
They are associating themselves
with what is happening. And if you look at it, much of the anger is actually within the country. You see Europe, US, and other places.
They are preoccupied with other.
But much of it is within the country. Sentiment is just anger sentiment towards the state is 90%. And I want people to challenge me, those who are watching, especially those of us who are in the business of data analytics, especially social media activity. The other one is just what you call joy, the joy sentiment, joyous sentiment. That is, you know, happiness towards the state is just 10%.
Really?
And so the people, the state who are in the analog enclave want to think that it's just 100 protesters. This is not true.
That is not true.
So that shows that then we need to reach that point and accept that there are certain things that are making citizens angry, whether you arrest them or not. And the way you react determines how your citizens will also counter-react. The tone, I usually like to talk about the tone. What is the tone from our leaders? Because that's important. In Kenya here, the tone was negative until they realized that you are dealing with a different type of generation. And the tone changed.
It was adjusted.
And when the tone changed, things are beginning to adjust in Kenya. Here, that tone is still militant, is still, you can't understand, we've been here 60 years and struggling for you, and you can, I don't know who advising President Museveni to understand that tone is important when you're dealing with an angry population.
Thank you so much, Rugendo. We will also get to that point when we look at the consequences of this situation where we have leadership that is disconnected from the being led, the population. Richard, I don't know where you can start from.
For me, let me start from there. One, I want to commend again President Museveni. He usually is the first one to read the situation and start moving. If you notice, in the last couple of weeks, he's been working to present himself as the
champion.
Absolutely, the czar
of corruption.
Anti-corruption czar. Who comes in a shining armor to champion. So he has read the times. Yeah, his nature is that he has read the times. And he's trying to take the initiative into his hands. And he recognizes, I think, that he started rather late. You see, for me, I have been telling people that you cannot in any way make me divorce the closing down of shops by the business people. That protest, because you see, the protest, the establishment has tried very uncreatively to project protest as a violent thing.
Okay, you're relating to the protests by the business community
Absolutely.
in Kampala when they closed
Absolutely, yes.
protesting URA's
and
implementation
is just
of policy.
a trigger. Like I always say on these platforms, Apollo, that when anger is adequate, you just need a trigger. It's just the same as the mechanism of a gun in Tambas yoke. The other mechanism is the bullet is available, it's in the chamber. It is just a simple
trigger
touch of the finger. It's usually very small.
Very soft.
So that's why you see even a piece of cloth you are shot. If you are having a gun, it will take off if you have not put the safety catch. Now, what we have not been doing are the safety catch mechanisms. How we have been we have been working with a lot of impunity. I keep saying this. We have been working with arrogance, annoying impunity. You cannot fail to be annoyed. We have been working with greed. Greed when you steal 3 billion, somehow I think your mind tells you that you should now steal 7 billion. I don't know why. I just don't know what happened. And on all platforms I say this. The first thing is the impunity. That you buy a 1.2 billion shilling car and you also brag about it. Yeah, why? Why? Okay, if you want to drive your car, why don't you drive it quietly? Why are you throwing it in the face of Regent, who is struggling to fuel his 14-year-old vehicle? You see, this is the thing, and that's what the packaging, the delivery, that's what Regendo calls tone. And yeah. You see, that's one. So this, he calls it profligacy. But this is the wanton wastage that, we live. So that is one. And two, you see, is taking people for granted. They attempt to paternalize and think everybody would accept. Yeah, because every time we go to talk is my child, your child. In our culture, not first forget Vazukul child. You see, in our culture, when my parent is talking, I am supposed to, But when my parent keeps talking and saying you behave well, but comes back when he has urinated on his pants because of booze every evening, there is no way I can keep listening to him. You go behave well, don't drink. Then in the evening he comes back when he has, and then he brings his hands to beat the. No, it gets. So I keep saying that the anger threshold usually reaches a point. So we started with the ones we call hooligans.
Yes.
Abuse them, they are.
Actually, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if anyone would refer to the people who protested on Tuesday as hooligans.
And by the way, there are hundreds. There are more than 200, the ones that have been arrested. Official. Those are the official figures. More than 200. You see, when you arrest, that's what I was saying, that we feel pain in our homes. When you arrest more than those 200 young, well-groomed, educated young people, there are homes behind that are paining. You can't keep convincing. It is not possible. That's why I commend him that he read, a bit late, but he read. And he said, I am now coming to lead this. We come to Chankwanzi, arrest my people. But you have a huge deficit of trust among the citizens of its government. A huge deficit.
Talk about now the response. In this case,
the response
where
is, you see,
where you declared
when you are a
corruption.
When you are a butcher, you have a few tools.
How you get it?
Yeah, you see, because for us, the cattle keepers from some of the other side, we call these ones ababaj. We sell to them our cows to go, and we know when we sell to them our cows.
What they do with
but
them.
we still criticize them for being ababaj, for being butchers. Because you see, a butcher, if you tell a butcher to go and graze cows, he will not come with a grazing stick, he will come with a bang. That is the tool he knows. These are the tools. I would, for me now, if it has not been done, be thinking that you would have a task force by now that would be looking for these
Gen Zs.
Who are they? These young people. Who are these ones? How do we engage? And I would be picking from them, what do you want? How do you want me to message?
He said he's going to address the nation very soon, I think, this week.
But you see, this is the other tone. You said they are doing very bad things.
They are foreign agents.
You say you are busy creating.
They're foreign agents.
Creating wealth and starving you.
If I sit and I look at your budget, and you have 25 trillion, 10 is stolen, the one locally, whatever over, but half of it is coming from outside. Why are you stopping me from engaging with those people who are you engaging with? How come me? How many of us, by the way, have our children studying from that terrible outside? If it is that terrible, how come we are all very proud? I don't know if you see the photos. These children put them on social media. I don't know if their parents know. I'm graduating in this university, I'm graduating in this. All of them are outside. If this is so terrible out there, how come we are sending our children? They are being taught. Liberalism. He talked about illiberal regimes. They are being taught to challenge us. They have tested better.
Yeah.
So they ask, but how come?
It's not happening.
How come? What's wrong with us? So they start looking at us.
Okay, that is it from the panelists. I continue to encourage you to send in your comments and observations. Use our WhatsApp number. Tell us what you think about the protests, the right protest, and possibly what consequences we will have to bear with this young population continuing to demand for accountability, but like Baguma said, those that are being held to account, I don't want to say their methods are those of you said butchers? Let me look quickly at the comments before we prepare to go for a quick break. Good morning, Mr. Pro and the panel. Welcome, Mr. Rugendo, to the dialogue show today. To me, I want to agree entirely with Dr. Wanzara that you cannot accuse someone protesting and charge him with idle and disorderly. So if courts really uphold that, it will not stand the test of time. But on the issue of deployment, Mr. Polo, you cannot be told that tomorrow we are coming to attack your home and you are not aware of how many people are coming, who they are and where they are coming from, and you think they will fold their hands and wait for that to happen. Yet you have a clear example of what happened to the neighbors yesterday. So to me, I think the demonstrators had the right cause but lacked organization. Abel akampumuza Keru. You will respond to that comment. Did the government or those in power had an option different from how they responded? Because, like you said, you have a neighbor who has had a bad experience with young people, and here they are coming to the streets. Let me also look to this other message coming in. He says, hello, this is Moses from Hoima. Those protesting are correct. It's a short message, and he thinks it is really correct. Thank you so much, viewers. Then another one here. He says, good morning to you all. I thank the young people who took to streets and openly told the president that his time is up. Mr. Museveni has left Ugandans in the hands of mushrooming, okay, and witch doctors, and his corrupt friends are eating away the country. As I have always said that whoever wants to be corrupt benchmarks at a certain place in Entebbe and Chadondo. So to be honest to ourselves, the solution is a new group, is to have a new group, okay? We have many Bagumas and Wanzaras who can give this country a new face. This is Magaya Andrew from Buyende. Thank you so much, Magaya Andrew. Let me hear from you before we go for a break in just 6 minutes.
Yeah, I know Abel, and for a long time I've not seen him, but I love his engagement every weekend. I wouldn't want to really blame the organizers that they poorly organized, but people should understand the context within which these people are organizing these protests. Uganda, in theory, we may call it a democratic country. Okay.
In theory.
In theory. But practically, we are under the National Resistance Army, which went to the bush in 1981 and fought a guerrilla war. And the leadership has not changed. Because, look, since 2011, Dr. Kizza Besigye by then started saying that I think the only option is to violently remove this through protests. So from then, the president and security forces listened. Actually, from around 2010 coming up to this time, even a peaceful protest of 5 people is usually broken. So now, how would you expect security to behave if they hear that young people who are organizing, because when we're in university, we would come assembled from square and they come and bump on you and grab you. Now you are helping people who you cannot trace. They are in their homes planning and you are listening. Yeah. You don't know where they are going to come from. So I think I never expected any different reaction. But so far, what these young people did, I think it is plausible. They tried, they are courageous. They were able to come and confront the military police and pass. And I saw them actually trying to even reach the gates of Parliament, where they were told, don't step here. So for me, I really don't blame them. And also, in such actions, civic actions, there is building capacity. I always say it here that there is no state Actually, government is inherently brutal. Every country where you see freedoms and these people protesting peacefully, at some point someone fought for it during that state formation. So there are people usually who come up to break the chains and change the status quo. Just that the way President Museveni broke some chains in 1986. By coming then, of course, there are reforms that he created. I cannot talk negatively about them. He started these direct elections. We have seen the women in leadership voted. We have seen the economy changing, promoting free market. So he broke those barriers. But now there is a generation which also has to break certain barriers also to get what they want. And this is what they are also trying to do.
I can add something there.
You can add something in 2 minutes.
Yes, I think, and I want to agree with you. I think if you look at the way they reacted, indeed they had no choice. But of course, borrowing from Kenya, I think also acted against them because definitely the state would have expected that such a protest would actually grow into something else that they can't control. However, for me, I want you to understand what is called the NRA. The NRA does not deal with organized groups. If you are organized groups, you are finished. If you organize yourself into some kind of structure, you are finished. Let's look at, let's begin with maybe Besigye.
The Besigye group.
The reform agenda was amorphous, and it caused problems to the. Now Besigye got problems when he decided to organize himself into a party.
FDC.
That's how he got finished. After Besigye, there was something called Go Forward. It almost actually caused a problem. Until then, they went into a DA, some Democratic Alliance. I don't know what that is. That
the Democratic Alliance.
TDA, yes. When it became TDA, I remember I was in a newsroom at some point, and a document leaked, and I know where it leaked from. That document was
2016.
2016. That document was actually their charter that they were going to give the next day to the press. It leaked the day before, and it was published. And I know where it leaked from. That shows you get organized, you are finished. Now, let's go to Baby Wine, for example. Baby Wine, why is NUP having problems? Because they chose to get organized. When they were not organized and they were
people power,
Museveni didn't know what animal he was dealing with. Now, here, these children, the contribution for me they have made was to cause that inflection point in our history. We reached that point where now we have realized these children have forced a new way of thinking, a new way of engaging government, and forcing them to understand that things actually are not as how they assume them to be. That has been their contribution. And I think for every generation, there is always that inflection point. If you look at 1966, for example, is when things changed for good. Then 86, things also changed for good. Now 2024, things are changing for a different direction. And so that's how, for me, I want to understand the way they protested and how also the state responded to the protest.
That is it. And when we return from this short break, that's where I will start from. Richard, now with this Gen Z population that is very very innovative, dealing with a leadership that has reached that level when they are somehow, I mean, I don't want to say totally disconnected from these young people. What will happen now? And that's when we interrogate the consequences from what we have just discussed. In relation actually to the constitutional right to protest when things go wrong. We'll go for a break, but when we return, the dialogue will continue to dig deep into the issues at hand. My name is Prince Apollo. Let's go for a short one, and we'll come after this break. Thank you so much. This is the dialogue on Sol TV. My name is Prince Apollo. Richard Baguma Tinka Simire, Rugendo, and Dr. Jeda Duiria Wansada going through the major events of the week, but specifically looking at the protests in which, out of which more than 100 were rounded up and detained. And we are looking at the potential consequences, especially looking at the people who are engaged in these protests, the youth majorly, and the responses from the authority coming out and sounding authoritative and not syncing with possibly the real concerns of the people who are protesting the rampant corruption in this country. Richard, I'll give you time to quickly speak about what possibly can come out of this when we have this time round young people who were not mobilized by political parties or political leaders. Like you said, some of them coming from well-to-do families, but they are now raising their voices and trying to make their concerns addressed. But again, we have a government that is fearful of anything that may come out of these protests, much as they are peaceful, who cannot take risks. What do you think may happen?
Yeah, but I would have deployed myself. Yeah, I think I would also have deployed. I would not have taken chances. I think it would be extremely reckless to just let it be. We have seen what has happened elsewhere. So that's one. The second thing is the people that make the decisions about deployment. We know that they will bring armor onto the streets. We know. It's not the first time it has happened. You see, during the last traders' strike, they just went home. You see, this is where you have a problem. The other time was walking. People walked. This time they are, when you deploy, but you still bring armor, all kinds of armor on the street. But the people have just stayed home. So what do you do? Do you go and pick them? Now, then there was engagement. And people came back. So this is the other challenge that you have. This thinking that you will not engage us. I'm saying the young people, not be, that you will not engage us. And for you, you would sit down and say, I am putting for you skilling for tailoring and things.
And PDM.
No, we shall board the plane and go to Saudi, wherever. That's the group that will go. There is this group which we have empowered, very proudly, by the way. There was a lot of education that is free or at least subsidized at primary, at secondary. They have come through. In the beginning, there were those ones who fall out. So you have a mixture. That you have 1 million children coming to primary school, maybe 400,000 finishing P7, and maybe 100,000 finishing at the end, and then, so you have this very toxic mix. And the age structure is that you won't change it. It is the reality. You have 90% of your people below 50 years. Now, where I was this time when we were in New York, I was with Honorable Mao, and Honorable Mao was saying, you see, when you have an unending traffic jam, there will be road rage. You can't stop it. So this is, and that's what I said at the time of the other strike of the guys, poor as they were, with loans and everything, they just went home. Nakab. And that's the word I used. Nakab. I am at the very end of my will. So what do you want me to do? And this is it, that this young child sees this deployment. It's on social media, it's on television, they are in all kinds of gear.
Actually, I wanted to talk about the courage.
They still go and write on placards and come. It is you cannot, You cannot refuse to see the message. You cannot, and we must see the message. So the consequence, Apollo, is what I always say, that these people, when they go on the street, in every of the countries, every French Revolution, Libya, wherever, 1780 what, 1980 what, no one gives them an invitation card. No. No one gives a timetable. We shall assemble here, pray, whatever. No. The circumstances are such that they come. Now, if they get hijacked, that is also possible. That the ones who you had suppressed adequately, the other ones who were binding tires, had been suppressed adequately. Now you have the polished ones. Of course, the tire guys will come in the case. That's how you get Uganda House banned in Nairobi. So I've been saying we can easily ban this country because of the
Actually, we didn't see any fire in this.
Because of the refusal. Because of the impunity, the arrogance, to listen, to just realize that yes, we have had the opulence, the profligacy, like Rugendo calls it, we have had the arrogance, impudence. We must now revise. It's a survival thing. It's an existential thing.
Thank you. Let me look at the comments quickly. As they come in, you can be part of the discussion. Keep these messages coming in and give us your comments and observations. Rich Uganda is watching from Kumi. He says this protest is the only key to our salvation from corruption. You hear? I am Michael from Chitintari. The protesters were right, only that we are dealing with a country of old Museveni who has no future and is just disturbing with the youth who have the future. How can we arrest someone who has no weapon? Let these soldiers go and fight with RRA who have guns, other than wasting our time on the streets of Kampala. You hear the anger. I think the message relates to the anger. My Gen Zs should remember that the army and police are already enjoying a salary increment, bribe, he calls it a bribe, to do exactly what Mr. Baguma called butchering. They are now sending a message to Museveni that give us the money and we fix the Gen Zs. Congrats Gen Zs, and keep on moving. But be careful with an elderly. Okay.
They have to be fair to the police. Yeah, I think they have to be fair to the police. First of all, the police cannot be called butchers. I think it's unfair. First of all, I think they are very...
They really did their best. They did their best. Very, very patient.
Two, the police, even the modest increment is still not adequate.
Before you respond to that, I read some comments that were relayed by Dr. Jimmy Spire Sentongo. There were messages allegedly from police officers, some of the policemen, who are saying, actually, we are not doing it. I mean, out of our conscience, we are not our consent. That we are not, we are also not happy with what is happening. We cannot substantiate.
Yeah, but you see, this is a demonstration.
But what I'm saying,
where you didn't have a bullet fired, where you didn't have tear gas fired, this we didn't know this, and you had some of these still, old style, lifting the person and throwing them on the pickup.
Those are the only things that we saw.
Why are you lifting? This guy is not even refusing to go. Why do you
bundle him like you're throwing a bunch of banana somewhere or some of makara?
So you could say the conduct really this time was not as in the past. So they were restrained. I think that you could also give them commendation. But also, you have to agree, and this is the repeated message we are saying, that the people with the command buttons are out of touch.
Oh, yeah.
With the people who are just holding placards and are doing nothing else. How can you fear? You see, this is the contradictions, and those are things that make anger. How come the previous day there were people demonstrating inside Parliament? What's the difference?
Okay, he says we are tired of corruption, and he's Amot from Kakumiro. He says the government is just giving them umbrella. Now you'll talk to that. You'll speak to that. I think he means that the actions of the response from government this time somehow gives comfort to the people who are corrupt. That when you come out with this full force against people who are protesting on a genuine issue like corruption, then you're giving them comfort. I think that's what he's saying, and you'll somehow bring it out and make your comments on that part, on that one. I will read comments later. Let me give my panel time now to respond. Dr. Gerard. Rugendo.
Fine.
Rugendo,
and of course, you see, the Daily Monitor, you know, was able to...
It's also a foreign agent.
Yes, that's what they said. I worked there. That's why I cut my teeth. Was able to articulate the 7 demands. You remember them?
Yes, yes.
And those 7 demands cut across. And I'm actually not surprised from your comments, the location of the people where they're commenting from. It's quite amazing. It means that actually the Genesis have made a very huge contribution. They've managed to project the state as some kind of structure that is anti-people's issues, because the issues that were articulated resonate very well with every person. Because if you don't solve the issue of corruption, then it means the health sector has a problem, the education sector has a problem, water, electricity, everything that you can think of that touches every other body has a problem. So I think for me the whole issue of reaction, because you're asking about, you know, how the state reacted and how
even the president now bringing in third party.
Yes.
I mean, choosing foreigners for funding the protests and talking about the urge to reintroduce colonialism.
Thank you. For me, of course, the president is the biggest consumer of intelligence. And when I read the statement, actually, I stepped back a little bit and said, wait a minute. First of all, the children were charged with idle disorderly, but then here is the president
charged with common nuisance.
Yes, but he is the president saying that they were planning to do bad things, and you won't hear them in court. So I'm wondering, during that hearing of charges that don't even exist on our books, how shall we be able to understand or to get to know which bad things were? But then he keeps to know something that we don't know. He keeps insisting that there was some forces behind, or that were planning to do bad things, but were going to take advantage of a genuine anti-corruption protest. For me, when it comes to that, I just want to give him a benefit of doubt, because anyway, if there's intelligence, he's the one supposed to know. For us, we are not supposed to know. We just need to see whether indeed he's right or not. But you see, that does not take away the issues that are being put across, and the issues that actually trigger the anger amongst the population. So for me, I think the best way out of this is going to be a point where we have to genuinely hold a discussion on issues that resonate with everybody, and they have been known for a very long time. First and foremost, we have about 2 or 3, or more or less 3 generations in this country that have never seen a peaceful transfer of power. This is a matter that is very critical to everybody, and if you're talking of a traffic jam that is endless, that is unending, that's what actually Mao means. Why? Because we are like an island. You remember that story in the history books of the sick man of Europe, and that was Turkey. You remember those days? But when you look in the region here, apart from Uganda, I think the other countries, Uganda and Rwanda, I think, are the sick men of this region, where you have perpetual leadership that does not change guard. You get it. And you see this point where we've come to join a community of nations where democratic practices are clear, that there are term limits, there must be a change of power when there's a change of guard or change of peaceful change of instruments of power or individuals. There is always going to be that fresh way of starting
they will
things.
Tell you that even in Kenya,
yes,
where they have had a change of leadership,
yes,
things are not
going
right.
No, but Kenya really, if you compare Kenya with Uganda, honestly speaking, okay, fine. They may not be fine. There is not a perfect country. Even I don't think even the US is perfect. But you see, what builds the anger is that uncertainty for me in this country that needs a discussion. People are uncertain. They don't know whether you can, what might happen in the next 5 years. You see, if there was a structured way of saying, you know, Baguma, you rule for 2 terms, and then when you leave, Regendo might come in or someone else might come in, you know, you create that sense of certainty amongst the population. But everybody realizes we are not going anywhere, we're stuck in a traffic jam, and therefore no one wants to listen, because if I raise my hand, probably my head will be my skull will be crushed. And so for me, we need to get to that point when a genuine discussion has happened, because the Gen Zs have made a point. The state has realized that actually protest is not just those 100 people they've arrested. There's so much protest going on in different spaces, and these spaces can even express itself on the ballot box in the next 2 years. They might be overwhelmed if they don't really want to come out and stop the arrogance and understand that a dialogue is possible on certain issues that actually resonate with all of us, especially reflected in those demands. And particularly, for me, I want to see faces that mean well leading these kinds of discussions. The president must begin to front voices of reason within his system. And he knows these people. People that children can trust, people that the Ugandans can trust. You cannot keep throwing the same faces with tattered histories, with tattered behaviors, and arrogantly saying you just can't do anything. That's the point you're trying to set, that's the tone you're trying to set. What do you expect citizens to do?
Quickly now, Rugendo, as I cross over to Dr. Jirugu Welewanzala, in 3 minutes, give us your opinion on now this sentiment that is coming up. People now thinking that the president is protecting the corrupt, and what it means now to the fight against corruption.
I actually said it at the start of just this small segment. I said that the protest has exposed the fact that the state does not care about the things that pain citizens. That's the projection that they have displayed, the tone they have given us. Yes, he said, yes, I can also join you in your protest, fine. But we are saying 9.7 trillion is leaving coffers. If you ask people at State House Anti-Corruption Unit, you'll be shocked the kind of complaints they receive every other day. And then the issue is they're stuck with the idea, with the complaint, general complaint from the people is that you are targeting small people, those small cows at the sub-counties. They don't see big fish falling. And that is a problem. And so, for me, what has now emerged is that is the perception of a state that we can't trust anymore in terms of seriousness regarding responding to these issues that the citizens are raising. And unless really the president now steps back a bit and says, okay, I think I need to see something happen. The other day, of course, he told he asked the MPs whether they wanted to see blood, and they said yes. So what is the blood? If these are the representatives of the people and they've said we want to see some blood, I think the president should show some blood.
MPs and
yes, the president should show some blood, big fish blood. That's what is going to restore that confidence amongst the people. But right now, I see I see a situation where we have the state on one side and the people on another side mistrusting each other, and that is what has emerged. To be able to hear that, it's going to take a situation where you need people that are trusted, people that whom we would call voices of reason, leading these discussions, leading the right communication. What is the kind of communication that is coming out of the state that the people are embracing? Do state actors understand what our people are going through in those ghettos when you go there? Sometimes I go in those places, by the way. You just can't imagine. You see really a country, a nation detached from its leaders. And there's no communication leaders. They don't care. The impunity that he's talking about, just people don't care.
All right, and these are the comments coming in. Gentlemen, this is the dialogue. Good morning, Mr. Pro. The other way to stop corruption is to reduce the powers of appointing authority. For example, the Electoral Commission, the Chief Justice, etc. People should apply for these posts and should be given authority to exercise the power in that office. Otherwise, things are still worse. James in Imbare. And actually, you gentlemen will tell us whether these protests may trigger some reforms, something positive going forward. You keep it. Mr. Polo, my advice to the protesters is that demanding for the Speaker's resignation is not the cure to the problem of corruption. Therefore, they should think about the means to address this problem, like litigation, since this problem is not in the office of the Speaker alone. Abel Kerapo Akampumza. Actually, somebody said the cause was right, but the approach was wrong.
I would like to...
They were calling for resignation of the Speaker, who is...
You need a spark.
Who is elected by...
I think...
He told you need a spark.
Yeah, I think the reason why the people targeted the parliament, one, it's because it is a people's representative. That the MPs who are there representing the voters, and one of their major role is oversight, fighting corruption, monitoring government programs, and doing oversight. So if you who is supposed to do the oversight, you are perceived to be corrupt, like it is, what would the citizen think? Maybe we who implement projects, we have what we call a theory of change, that take on probably the MPs, take on the leadership of parliament, so that the parliament reforms and is able to hold the executive accountable. Probably that's what they are thinking.
We had someone from parliament advising, I think it is Honorable Ahmad Nsereko,
yes,
advising the protesters that possibly they should be going to the homes of MPs and maybe petition them, not by coming to parliament.
No, but you know, I think we are all losing the argument, and that's why many politicians are losing relevance, because that parliament is a people's house. It doesn't belong to Honorable Nsereko, doesn't belong.
Even had him
so
say,
where should they go? That's where.
I even had him say,
and he talked of privacy, so you can't go into
they
their
should
homes.
not go to Nsereko's home.
I had him also say,
unless he wants to cause trouble to himself. And actually,
that if your MP is corrupt, pick your papers and go and contest against him and come and...
But you see, when the Gen Z threatened that now we are coming,
I'm saying that is what is now coming in from our leaders in parliament.
It is fine. But I also want to point out that I think it's a very reckless for a member of parliament to propose that, because we all saw when the Gen Zs in Kenya started going to people's homes, you saw the destruction that was taking place there. And it is good this week, I think the Honorable Sechkubo got the signatures for his motion. Otherwise, the campaign on social media was, give us the lists from the 30th, we go to MP's homes and they sign the motion. And I think many had, I saw one MP from Masindi who was saying, you know, people are over harassing me, I have decided to come and sign. So we need citizens' pressure on leaders. Because when leaders, you know, when politicians sit together, no one should lie you. Whether it is FDC, NUP, or that, once they get to the comfort, okay, they all behave in a similar way. And this is exactly what is happening, like in Kenya, where we think there is change of leadership, where we think there were constitutional reforms in 2020 and people can peacefully protest, but still politicians were sitting together and sharing the benefits. You a member of parliament in Kenya, your salary is almost equivalent to 100 million of Ghana shillings. Is it an executive position that you have a budget, a burden of running a company like New Vision? I mean, why should you qualify to get equivalent to 100 million a month? Is it an executive position? Are you heading MTN? So these are the questions that citizens have to ask. And for me, coming back to our situation here, what I would like to appeal to the president is that he shouldn't take this very, very lightly. I have mentioned it here that we need serious governance reforms in this country. Decentralization is dysfunctional at the district there. They are receiving 8% of the national budget, and then many local governments, in terms of recruitment, at 50%. They are not able to deliver services. But we are creating sub-counties for politicians to siphon money, the little money. We still have a huge budget. By the way, don't tell me to Uganda quarter from Nabisindu. I should quarter here because the budget of Uganda, the 90% is here at the center. So if you tell me we gave you a district, Uganda, solve your matters there. No, more resources are here. That's why the citizens of Uganda are pointing here. And then the other issue that the president needs to talk about, the issue, I saw the issue of saying we are busy creating wealth and you are disturbing us. And you are disturbing us. I think what my brother here mentioned, Rugendo, is right. Maybe we are all not experts in communication, and maybe also communication must be strategic. That depending on the context, who is speaking, what are they talking? Because lately, I have seen the government is, the people who are speaking for the government are full of corners here and there. Sometimes they insult the public, and this breeds anger in society. Now, most importantly, we are seeing in 2018, according to Afrobarometer report then, about 80% of Ugandans supported dialogue. They believed dialogue was a way to go, that we should sit as a country, have a national conference of politicians, civil society, media, all others, religious leaders, and we forge a way forward. What's the best way? In this recent Afrobarometer report, the number has reduced. Now, about only 60% of Ugandans think dialogue is the way to go. That is dangerous. It means that people who believed we can talk out of these situations now believe other means are possible. We also saw that the trust between the leaders, which Richard talked about, has further dropped. In 2018, at least 25% of citizens believed in information from their member of parliament. Now it is at 15%. And just 18% from a local councillor who lives with the people there every day. You can imagine. So this is not good. If there's no trust, it means if you are going to come up with a project, say for housing, to eliminate slums in Aguru, no one is going to believe you. They will say, they're going to steal land, and before you know it, the Koro people are protesting, that project will not take place, will not set off. So we need to work on building trust between the leaders and the citizens. And we need, this is a free intelligence information. I've been hearing, people are saying Thanksgivings are becoming too many. People are saying this homecoming, whoever is appointed the state minister, instead of you working and we see your results, the first thing you do is to organize 100,000 people, cook food, and then you think you have worked for your people. All these, the young people are discussing them and saying they must stop. Otherwise, one of these, you may not see tents standing in some of these functions.
No, that's violence.
Yes, which is really bad.
It is very bad. And thank you so much, our viewers. Keep those messages coming in. I can read one from Wilson. And Wilson is the gentleman I told you. He told me he's an ardent viewer of the dialogue. Good morning, Apollo and the dialogue. Here watching you in Nsumbi, Cheba and Onasana. Thank all the panelists for the good deliberations. Corruption must be fought at all levels using peaceful means. Security should provide security to the youth to express themselves using peaceful demonstrations. I imagine how that would happen then under the circumstances we have discussed here. And thank you so much, Wilson. Is that possible in the near future, possibly for those in power now to backtrack and protect this? Because some of a section of Ugandans were saying, why wouldn't security escort these people come to Parliament, not inside Parliament, at the gate of Parliament, they display their messages, or they say what they want to say, then they escort them back.
But by the way, there is a time we were on the right.
Can that happen under this circumstances?
There was a time we were on a right trajectory. Like when we were trying, some of us, to fight the term limit, amendment of the Constitution to remove term limits. Because that time I was an activist and popular resistance against life presidency, led by Mwanga Chivumbi. We organized peaceful protests up to City Square. We burnt the Visanja. We went to the British High Commission to petition to get the support of the commission, and the police escorted us. I think it was under Katumba Wamala. So, but later, like I told you, as the politics has been changing, and also I can rightly say we have also had a lot of inflammatory statements also by politicians. Today, I see Bobby Wine and Dr. Bess just speak the same language of now believing in urban what? Protests as a way of changing government. So as a government in power, you cannot sit and let it just come and happen like that.
It won't be possible for such a thing to happen.
No, I think it is like you telling a hyena to escort a goat to a house, to escort a goat up to where it sleeps. Because definitely the hyena will eat it.
All right. We have at least 20 minutes to the end of the show. Richard, what now lies ahead? If we look at what we have discussed and what we have highlighted as major issues, what do you expect? And I pick from what Dr. Jared Wehe said from the president's response. He talks about foreign influence and people who have bad intentions behind these protests. And the president, like you said, communicates in a way that actually broods and breeds anger, much more anger. I don't know what now lies ahead.
No, first of all, I'm positive. I'm positive, really. I think that this...
Because he talks about wealth creators. We the wealth creators are busy. And then you people, you want to come and corner in our garden.
No, I'm positive. First, I am positive because the group that has been accused of docility, being docile, that has been accused of being detached from what was being, of being accused of being comfortable, has come out to express themselves. So the misrepresentations that we have been giving about them get thrown out of the window. That's one, and we can't ignore them. We are simply unable to ignore them. So I'm positive that these voices will continue to come out. It is easier, by the way, to engage those than to engage the other ones.
The other guru.
Yeah, it is. The second thing is, for me, also why I'm positive, is that clearly President Museveni read the times and he started taking steps already to project himself as the anti-corruption czar. Excuse me. Why I'm positive is that he has one thing about him that I believe is that he always, the one thing that determines everything else is his stay in power. And if he stay in power, it's going to mean dumping 100 people around him, the closest. He will do that. No question in my mind about that. I have no doubt in my mind. At any and every cost, he will want to stay in power. And he can't ignore that staying in power, things must change. you must respond in certain ways. You can't keep, penalizing things. You can't. The approach must change. It could be cosmetic, but at least steps will be taken. I'm also positive.
Could it be possible there was foreign influence in these protests?
I would be shocked if there wasn't. Yeah. Why would you expect me, who finances more than half of your budget, not to be there? Why would you expect me, whose interest is to dominate you and use you to fight my other wars, not to be there? Why would you expect me, who has economic interests in your country, not to be there? I mean, really? Really? Yes, of course.
Doesn't that undermine the real cause of fighting corruption?
No, for me, I look at it from the other angle. That if I have my guard and he is not either angry with me or is not a thief, even when you come to influence them, you are exploiting their already existing bad blood. So we should detoxify. We should do the things that do not create the anger that we have been talking about. We must not steal the current and future lives of our young people. That's what we are doing. What we call corruption is really stealing their lives.
The future.
The current. Why do you start with the future? These guys, when I was coming back, I don't know if I told you, I stopped in, of course, the flight was coming through Dubai. And I went to the McDonald's to look for something. While I was reading the prices, the girl told the other one, when he was kumeza was simudeo in Uganda. Then the other one said, Anzena simudeo. There were 3 guards, they were all speaking Uganda. I switched.
All Ugandans.
All Ugandans. You see, I have no problem with externalizing labor, for instance, because we can't employ everyone. No. But if Rugendo, by the way, has an initiative on STEM, science, technology, mathematics.
They are in Senegal now. They are going to compete tomorrow. They are going to compete tomorrow on the continent.
Has looked for government money. Where? How come, if we are promoting science, we are not promoting such an initiative? No. So for me, these are the things that, why I'm positive, is that these guys coming out, we cannot ignore them. The signs are already there, that the very person they are going to sit on plot 1 in every of these places has already started changing and coming to be on their side. And I think this one will continue. You would see him. He's very astute in my view. The meetings are going to start happening. The groups are going to be met. Now, it is for these groups not to accept to be short-term manipulated. Yeah, because you see the approach is being given stacks of, what do you call them, briquettes. They get briquettes of currency and they go. But we must deal with the underlying problem. Apple, finally, for me, if you have a wound and you keep putting jelly, that wound is not going away. You must get the antibiotics and heal the wound. There may remain a scar which will be itching, but the wound will be healed. That's what I'm talking about. The myoga. And you go to tell me that
the myoga is just jelly on the wound.
No, you see, if you are not stealing the money, if you were not stealing the money, we would be having a specialized hospital, we would be having all the money you have stolen.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rugendo. Going forward.
Yeah, I think...
what do you think? Will there be engagement and possibly solve some of these problems the youth and other people are advancing, or government will maintain its authoritarian response?
For me, I want to agree with my brother, Richard. The process has started and it is irreversible because they are dealing with something that is amorphous, they can't understand it. You might find even that some of the people they stay with in their own bedrooms are actually supporting these kinds of processes. So we have reached that inflection point, like I've said, in our history. This is something you can't reverse. The discussion has now gone beyond Kamocha, gone beyond VSJ, gone beyond UPC, DP, Amin. It is now about this post-1986 generation discussing their future. That you cannot reverse. It's going to happen. It's not going to be something that they will probably curtail or just ignore. It's not going to be possible. So I think there's going to be that. But before I even say that, let me first tell you something that I had forgotten earlier on. You see, which breeds anger once again. You see, somebody told me that if you want to measure the seriousness of a country, just a country, look at their roads, look at how they maintain their airport, look at how they look after their national sports team. That's important, those kinds of things. How they treat their senior citizens.
Yes.
How a country treats pensioners. You know, those Chechuru who are at the districts lining up to pick their pension, instead of getting 10 million, they get 2 million. Somebody is looking for a compensation for so many years, after 30 years, through their cooperatives. They are supposed to be entitled to 10 million shillings, they get 500,000. How you treat them, how you treat that kind of people, how you treat teachers, people who generate knowledge for a country. So these, when you come to Uganda, you have a population which is almost 81% literate. They see these things, they know these things. So it ties into the question we asked, whether we're going to see a better situation out of this. Yes, because we are not dealing with a lumpen proletariat anymore. We are dealing with a literate population that sees how the world is moving and they want better things for themselves. So for me, that's going to happen. Number two, this question of wealth creators versus the lazy, with due respect to my president, for
Parasites.
For me, I think for me that was really not a good statement. It fits into what we've been saying, the tone, the kind of arrogant tone that's coming from our leaders. Somebody is trying to save 9.7 trillion. If you save 9.7 trillion, it means that money will be available to create wealth.
No, you're using unpatriotic means.
Yes.
Because if the protest was patriotic, if the protesters were patriotic, and they were guided by police, I would be part of the protest.
No, that's not the issue. But the point, what's the point that is being made? The methodology for us is a different matter, and that's why me and him and even Dr. Welke here, we are agreeing with some of the methods that the police use. The methodology is okay. But the issues are transcending. You cannot do anything about it. There is corruption in this country. He has also admitted that 9.7 trillion is stolen every year. So if genuine voices, let me say genuine voices, minus the ones who are allegedly picking money from foreigners, the genuine voices like us who are really kindly saying something has to be done. If that process, if that agitation aims at solving, aims at saving 9.7 trillion, so that can be available to create wealth, why do you insult us? But then, so then the other thing that is going to happen for me is that I think we're going to have more voices of reason, more voices that are going to keep agitating for our democracy and articulating issues. I think this is what this thing has really given us. I still also, like Richard here, I trust in Museveni in getting on top of this situation. Probably he might have been thinking things are just normal, the usual stuff. But I think he likes to really wake up and see through certain things, and see through certain lies, and being able to provide the right direction for the country. I really foresee that. Then, this issue for me of foreign influence, where is the chief consumer of intelligence? It might be there, and like he said, the people who give us a lot of money, you cannot stop them from meddling into our affairs. But if that makes us uncomfortable, let us do the things that don't invite them on our doorsteps. If you don't want rats to invade your house, you must make sure your house is clean, does not have dirty food thrown everywhere. The rats will come. Let's remove it, and these rats will not come. It's very easy to solve this foreign influence problem. It's very easy. if we wanted.
Do invite them.
Yes. Then for me, I want finally that I believe that out of this, I really want also to listen into what's going to happen in the cabinet meeting of Monday to see whether there's going to be actually some kind of soul searching, some kind of discussion about. Yes, and so I don't know.
They're still watching the president's mouth.
Okay, well, I hope he chairs it and then we'll be able to see. But for me, what is missing in Uganda and what these children are saying and what all of us are saying, be present in our lives. That was the philosophy of the NRA, what used to call siasa, if you remember. The NRA people that we admired were always in people's lives. They wanted to listen, they wanted to know how people slept, what is paining them. There is nothing, there's no connection. No, the fellows are up there in their profligacy, they don't understand how people are paining underground. They don't understand what it takes to people. If you ask people, you ask these fellows who are running private schools in this country, they will tell you, even right now, it's 2 months into the new term, to the second term. People have not finished paying school fees.
Don't say people, say we.
We.
Talking about teachers, there's a comment here on schools. Please, he says, please, the government should not forget primary teachers' salary increments because they are overworked, but the speaker is awarding our taxpayers' money to commissioners. Let them leave office in peace. Amoti in Kakumiro. I read your message. Thank you so much for watching from Kakumiro and elsewhere. Thank you so much, our viewers. We are coming now to the conclusion of this debate this morning. Gerard, what do you now foresee? Do you hope to see these Gen Zs now that their concerns and calls have been met with full force? Do you see them retracting and waiting, or even like he has hopes in the cabinet meeting of tomorrow? Can we see something change?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have trust in the cabinet meeting tomorrow, faith that something will come, because the same group has been in Chankwanzi for just recently, talking about corruption. And but I also foresee that the young people have actually been energized.
Really?
If you follow the discussions that took place immediately after the first protest, you'd find 10,000 people, 20,000 discussing online. So this is more to do, so engagement, virtual engagement. So I believe it has energized the people. But also, what I want to appeal to the president and his team is that they can look at this as an opportunity. You know, you cannot waste this revolution just to go like that. They can look at it as an opportunity to actually change things. He has talked about supporting STEM. Why can't we advertise if there is a fund for innovation, and then people with ideas submit proposals, and they also have access to government funds? Why should people go and access the office of the president under the carpet from here and there? We want to see serious action on projects of government. A road that would do, you know, the money sometimes spent on one road might be able to do 2 roads, because the same people see the opportunity for compensation, they go buy plots, and then they earn from the same project in terms of compensation. So we are not able to have the 2. I want to see a situation where State House scholarships, now which have over 2,000 students, are open, and then everyone is able to apply and access them, that I don't have to know either Honorable Todong or what, because before I lobby for someone, a scholar, because these are national resources. I also want to see a situation where the natural resources of Uganda are properly accounted for. Who is mining gold, where, who is in iron, where. If I want a prospecting license, why should I work for 2 years and another person is able to get it within a week? And, you know, this...
Doctor, because of time, your final comment. I'm sorry.
Well, let the government see this as an opportunity. When a generation like this comes up, it's like a pregnancy. You will not push the baby back.
Okay. Thank you. Rugendo, I didn't tell the viewers that you are the co-founder of Broad Paper.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And now an editor-in-chief somewhere.
Yes.
Your final comment.
Oh, well, I think for me, I want to agree with the fellow panelists here. This is a very good opportunity for a country to come together and dialogue. I'm a peace lover because I belong to a very prestigious leadership institute which is called the Archbishop Desmond Tutu Leadership Program. Oh. And we promote dialogue, we promote peace. Let the government listen. Good. Listen to your children, do some soul searching, do intelligence, proper intelligence, do research, find out what is paining your citizens. That's the most important thing.
Thank you so much, Rugendo. I can see it not only from your words, but even from the map that is designed just close to your heart.
Yes. Map of Uganda.
For being patriotic.
Thank you.
Richard, just one comment, because...
All right, the president is the biggest consumer of intelligence. I would still believe that intelligence is going to give him good intelligence, and he will continue on the trajectory of being the czar against corruption, but the ears will be more hearing of this population. And let me tell you, the Rugendo is here. You know Rugendo is part of the Perao. Hey. You know Perao?
Piro you.
What do you call it? Patriotic League. This is the opportunity now. Perao people are going to step in because you see they position themselves as the voice of the young people. So I can see you be close to Rugendo. Be close to Rugendo.
It's the opportunity.
It's just an opportunity to tell you that we be close to Rugendo.
That's a very good one, a good idea, by the way. We should now step in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for me, it was
I hope, Kabanda, you have heard.
The Kabanda is making very serious comments.
No, but you see, I have been, and we have to
He's
discuss
telling
this,
His Excellency
that there must be a strategic direction for Perao. Yes. Perao is a good thing.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Our
yes,
time is
absolutely.
Up. It is always a pleasure having you on this show. Thank you so much for the comments and observations. But on top of all that, thank you so much for being a great audience. Let's catch up next Saturday. Thank you so much to Baguma Richard, Arini Rugendo, and Dr. Richard, Dr. Wene Wanzara, and our production crew. Thank you so much for making it happen. Till next weekend, good afternoon, God bless you, and God bless Uganda.